Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. How you doing? This is your host, Preacher Moss, the host of the SOS Shout Out Show, Day 3 of Ramadan. We are just moving through. I don't know if people realize, um, honestly, I looked at my calendar and I kind of looked at the layout of Ramadan and the fact that we're not going to be going in deep into the summer. This is going to be a relatively quick Ramadan, brothers and sisters. So don't blink, you might miss it. Today's topic is literally about the lost art of building community. I was going through and reflecting on Jews 3 of the Quran, and it's interesting to talk about how you build community. And there's a particular type of nuance that I really want to touch on. It's actually pretty beautiful when you get into the construct of it all, and also the fact that you feel like when somebody put this out, they were literally laying out a blueprint for some of the things we go through, not only in building cities or churches or masjid communities, but literally in our relationships that we have with one another. So I just want to make sure that we are clear on that. We're going to be talking about the lost art of building community. Now, people say, what does that mean? And I was just talking to a friend of mine on my phone. It is interesting how we regard the fact that we need to have a certain type of consensus to feel as though we are empowered to do something. And literally, this is not the religion for it. In fact, most organized religions of it, the leaders of organized religions are not people that literally bought into consensus. They are and forever known as consensus breakers, but bring in a different type of trajectory in terms of how communities established, even with our families. Even with our families, when you start looking at some of the things that are there to protect the family, protect the wealth of the family, protect the health of the family, the name of the family, even how we protect our own religion is really, really interesting because here we are in 2022, and not to browbeat anybody, but I'm like, man, it seems like the world could just be doing a whole lot better than what we're doing right now. When I say a whole lot better, I'm saying that, having all of these instruments, having all these mechanisms in terms of what makes the world easier for us to access it, what makes it easier for us to talk to one another. It seems like in some regards we're redundant in our failures, brothers and sisters. Yesterday I talked about the world in terms of it being a society that's a counterfactual society. Like if you don't put your imprint there, somebody will come along and go, it never existed in the first place. The nuance of building family is almost the same way of building community. That's a Freudian slip to me. Your first community is your family. And the didactic, a lot of times that people put out is that we don't necessarily know them how to form communities. We don't necessarily know how to establish building blocks. Thus, we're always told the African American community has always suffered from the fact that people did not respect or believe that we understood how to build community. Under the worst of oppression, we built communities. Otherwise, you would have total anarchy. Otherwise, you would have revolts going on and on. There is a certain type of intelligence that has to be brought into the fact that people say, we're here. How do we make this thing the best for us? How do we take the devices around us and somehow improve not just the quality of living for ourselves, but the quality of living for other people that are going to come behind us? The scope that we can vote today is not the fact that we were doing it in the 60s. It was a vote that it was something that was established in the 1860s after slavery was abolished. The fact that people had political acumen and business acumen understand that if we can grow a prolific business community, a religious community, then we have a particular type of identity that deserves one, respect, but two, in the midst of everything else, it requires valuation. Because if you're doing a valuation of these communities, all of a sudden you tend to realize that they do have value. That my destructive ways cannot work in this type of situation. One, because these people already have a blueprint about how they can rebuild society, and number two, they have a blueprint of how they can rebuild society without me. Brothers and sisters, this is the Shout Out Show, Day 3. We're celebrating. Big shout out, of course, to our sponsor, Islamic Relief. Shout out to our other sponsors. Of course, we're talking about BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, ushub.tv, and of course, my man, and shout out, Ijaz Saeed over at Convenient Urgent Care. We're getting ready to get into the lost art of building community here on the Shout Out Show. Let's roll.
we just need help.
Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Muslim Family Services at your command. The people who help people have to say, we need your donations, don't delay. We all have struggles from time to time, but leaders dedicated is what you find. Before another person sheds a tear, support Olive Branch, you don't have to fear. Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. Action you can see, compassion you can feel. Sing it with me. Ooh. Ooh. And we're back, brothers and sisters. We are back, and I am really, I'm busting at the seams to really talk about this topic today. The lost nuance of building community. We want to make sure that we are, of course, the lost art of building community. I said nuance. I'm telling on myself. Thank you, Satana, for correcting me. I appreciate it. What we're going to talk about today actually is fundamental in so many things that we do. And I don't mean in terms of building communities, it's literally how we orient our lives. There are some things I'm going to bring in that have said to me as a young Christian, that have said to me as a young Muslim, that said to me as an old Muslim, that said to me as a black man, as a businessman. I believe that if I can share some of those things with you, I think some of this stuff is going to make sense. And I think we can actually build with this type of stuff. When I say build, I mean evolve our thinking, evolve how we deal with one another. In some regards, like for people like myself, I like to go back to the drawing board and kind of realign what I'm doing with what I have been doing and be able to evaluate the two pieces. So this is very, very important. Okay. And actually, before that, we get into that, let me thank all the shout outs, show family, all the shout outs. So soldiers coming on. This is day 3. It looks like we're going to have a really good Ramadan season. The 30 for 30 is going to be all it's cracked up to be. We appreciate you guys coming on. We're going to have a special guest on Saturday. Inshallah. You know, our guests get busy, but I'm looking forward to having our guests on. We'll make that announcement, I guess, tomorrow or Wednesday, if that's okay with you guys. So let me throw this out here. I shout out your family. We want to give a shout out to Sister Ree, who is in Michigan, hanging out with her sister. Thank you for talking to us, Ree, checking in on us, because we were checking in on you. Sister Todd and I reached out to make sure you were doing okay, and we are happy to see that you are up in Michigan, disturbing the peace. Peace and blessings to you, Derek and Juwan. Next up, all time for she, Mr. This is 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Our Canadian ambassador to the show. What's going on, brother? Tuning in all the way from Toronto, Canada. He's getting his 6 o'clock to 6:30 in right now. And Ramadan will end about 7:20 something in Toronto. I'm not sure. I just threw that out there. Altaf, I don't know what iftar is, but I know right now you say it can't come fast enough. All right, next up. Bilal Salahuddin, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And again, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Altaf, in case I forgot to give you a greeting. What's going on, brother Salahuddin? My main man and Sister Sonia Salahuddin in the house, man. I saw some pictures of you at a club, man. You and Sister Sonia out someplace looking at a band. Now, I don't know where you were, but I'm gonna say it looked like you're having a good time. All right. Let me throw that out there. Next up. All right, we got brother Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Eric. Hope you're doing well, man. Hope that your fast is moving along swiftly and with meaning and conviction. Brothers, ain't no need just sitting around being hungry. Ain't nothing spiritual about that, brothers. Just figure out what it is in your life that needs some fine tuning. Figure out what you need to move out of the way so your spiritual growth grows and evolves and can connect to this creation that we're all blessed to be a part of. Good to see you, brother. Next up. My main man, Mark Catanay, better known as Jelani Locks. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Mubarak to my man. My man's been knowing me for a lot of years, so he's honorary Muslim. Whenever he comes on the show, whenever I see him, he always gives me the greeting. And just trying to make sure you're doing all right as we head into Ramadan, brother Mark. Give us a shout out. Let us know how your health is doing. I know you were down a little bit. Your mom were worried, so let us know. Give us a fist pump or something like that, letting us know that you're okay, brother. All right, next up. How can you forget Mama Son, better known as Mary Moss, talking about Ramadan Mubarak, SOS family. Girl, you get into the spirit. I appreciate it, Mom. I appreciate it. My mom has been with me since my first Ramadan, and God bless her, because I know my first one was rough. I lost about 30 pounds, and people thought I was on crack. So Spiritual crack. So that's it right there, brothers and sisters. We want to make sure we get our other last one. Then we're gonna get in Sister Satana, work in the back. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Satana, Ramadan Kareem to you too. Much love to everybody, man. That's the way I'm feeling today. I want to give a shout out to my man Michael Cooper and his cousin who came to do some work at my house, came to pressure washed my house and knocked all the paint off the siding. God bless them. They had they had good timing. They had good intentions, but it looks like somebody punched all the teeth out of my siding. But Allah knows best. Okay, all right. Brother Mark gave us the Sister Tana. Brother Mark gave us the peace sign and the power sign. He is doing all right. All right, brother. Glad you tuned in. So let me lay this out. The lost art of building community. From today's reading from the Quran, Jews, it has two parts to it. I'm not going to get into the reflection right away, but it has two parts to it because the story in the Quran at this point in time is Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and his movement are going to Medina. But they're not going to Medina as paupers with their hats in their hand. They're going with a new type of identity, and they're going to establish two things, social order, and they're also going to establish politics. This is extremely important, what I'm about to talk about today. That you cannot have social order without having political correctness. And I want to say not correctness, but some type of impetus that allows people, for lack of a better word, to understand that there are laws in place and there's structuring in place that, for lack of a better word, keep things moving, keep things fair, keep justice available, and mostly important, allows for options and opportunities. When we get into larger spaces, what goes on in the world today, it is a negation of the fact that people don't have options and opportunities. If we're watching the Ukraine Russia crisis, what are we talking about? This is a clash between two groups over options and opportunities. One wants more, and to have more, you have to take it away from somebody. We've talked about the zero plus sum relationships a lot of times that we have. For me to win, you have to lose. For you to lose, I have to win, that type of thing. And there's nothing in there, the interplay, that says that, wait a minute, there's a compromise. Well, in this space of understanding the lost art of community building, it is the ability to frame compromise. It is the ability to say that if I can give this much, I can receive this much. And it's not so much the compromise. It is the willingness to have an exchange, a meaningful, organic exchange. And many of us don't have that. We watched the Supreme Court nominations. What I was hoping was, as I watched Sister Ketanji, what I hoped was people would actually have a come to Jesus moment, understanding that she was actually qualified for the job. And the questions about philosophical rulings, philosophical impetus or rulings and things like that should not underscore the fact that she was qualified for the job. Thus, you're having a discussion with someone who is qualified, who's an expert in the position. You are not an expert in position only because you get to ask the questions. You're only looking for answers. You're asking, qualifying what you think with an expert. These days, brothers and sisters, the honest question is, how many experts can you have? Everybody can be an expert. Everybody can't be the know-it-all. We live in an age of pundency, that people who think a certain way and get a certain group of people to think the same way that they are somehow have framed themselves as experts. And unfortunately, in the space of community building or building a community, you now have these people in pockets sprouting up. Whether it's the people who say stop the steal, or whether it's the people that say we don't like black folks, or we don't want abortion at this point in time, or we don't want immigration at that time. At this point, you have a harvesting of people who are inept, and devoid of the ability to look at it from somebody else's position, but more importantly, to look at it from somebody else's benefit. How can I help you is the word that's missing in the issue of community building. How can I help you be successful? It's missing. The vernacular is gone. And over in politics, as we see it, the idea of politics is that you have a coalescing of ideas. And the best of the ideas are meant to, of course, be beneficial to the rest of the community. Too often, we have people who say, I got big eyes and little you, meaning that I have to report, if you will, or better say, I have to comport myself for the benefit of other people who've put me in this position. Over and over, we don't look at history. Black Wall Street was originally in Durham, North Carolina. It wasn't in Oklahoma. It's in, and I want people to look up the original Black Wall Street to understand the genius of these men building community. And the genius of these men building community is they found a compromise with a white man who understood this community is going to be here a very, very, very long time. Even suffices to say, let me even go further, that this community, at some point in time, I'm going to depend on that community. And how I treat them now is how they treat me later. In business, and we all do business, in business, you can have a contract. You can have an ironclad contract. But this right here, the shaking of someone's hand, is missing. The idea that you look them in the eye and you say, do we have an agreement in principle? Most of the deals that happen these days, brothers and sisters, they're not these extravagant pitches. It's people that say, I trust what you are saying. And they look at what you've built. If you're a business, they look at the business community that you built and how it interacts with other business communities. In the religious space, we have the same thing. In the religious space, we have interfaith, where factions of our religious discord give other people to interact, to share, if you will, to talk about how these religions that we hold so deeply can help the overall manifest of society. How can we live up to our religious identity? Over and over again, brothers and sisters, we seem to revisit failure. And in that revisiting the failure, we come to where we are right now. Confusion, chaos, war, mistrust, greed. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back talking about the lost art of building community here on the SOS. See you. Don't you move. We'll be right back. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now is the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
Okay, we're back. We're going to make sure we shout out, of course, all our sponsors, but we want to definitely shout out our title sponsor, Walaikum Assalam Rahmatullah Barakatuh, JT, little brother. Good to see you on the show. Let me know how your fast is going when you get a chance, all right? We want to shout out, of course, Islamic Relief USA, doing great things. I'm hoping we'll be working on some bigger projects. If you guys get a chance, go to Islamic irusa.org, Islamic Relief USA.org. Check them out. A little donation, we have our project, St. Preacher Monster Prison. I took the video down, Sister Satana. I didn't tell you, but I took the video down. I am re-editing it. The problem is that the video isn't what it should be. I presented something that was very masculine and not really speaking to the female aspect of incarceration, which is that women and children are disproportionately affected by incarceration. So I'm going to cut a new video, and that comes after I had a talk with a very good friend of mine. So I owe you a video, so I took it out of there. So I apologize for that. But if you don't mind, let's run the ticker. We want to say thank you for all these people that have donated to the St. Preacher Monster Prison Reentry IT program. We want to thank our donors. We got everybody. We got Jawad Kawaja, Nancy Mustafa, Hud Williams, Mary Moss, Satana Whitfield, Maxine BK, Clifford Moss Jr. We got Imam Jahari Abdul Malik. And our next one, we got Dr. Sylvia Traymore, Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid, Sheikh Joe Bradford, Masjid Al Tawheed, and Masjid Imam Qasim Ahmed, Sister Malaz Muhammad. My main man is Sam. He tuned in, and it's just fun to. It's a blessing when they get the reactions, because all those people I know them, and they're just outstanding people. So to have to support outstanding people is a blessing in and of itself. I don't know if people understand what we're really trying to do with this project, outside of trying to teach people Salesforce and get them in the position where they're competitive for meaningful salaries, sustainable wages. It is the idea that you can re-engineer. And I was reading this, I was watching an interview by John Henrik Clark. It is the idea that if you can frame some aspects of commerce where people have a first chance look at it and they're able to frame their personality and their goals around it, that you can, in essence, build a new community. We're talking about the lost art of building community. One of them is a financial community. This is a beautiful thing. So let me give you this quick reflection on Jews 3. I read it, and the whole idea of a movement of Muslims led by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, going to a space, and it built, because there's a consensus when they get there. And one of the greatest verses in the Quran is Qudsi. And when people read Qudsi, it's very, very comforting for them, because it gives you an identification. It's almost like if God had to give you a badge and somebody had to tell you what he was in charge of, you look at this is a complete entity, if you will. And speaking to it as a complete entity, it tells you what's going to go before you, behind you, all those type of things. The beautiful part of it is this, though, is that it ties into the fact that prophethood, as well as political identity, as well as personhood, begins to manifest. They go to Medina to establish a community. And that community is there today. Think about it. It was established back then. It's still there today. And it serves as a model, not just for people in the Arabian Peninsula. It serves as a model, brothers and sisters, for what we go through here in the United States, particularly people of color who have to, outside of their identity, their racial identity, have to establish a meaningful political identity, a business identity, and a social identity. Not very easy, but as you begin to read, you see the reinforcements. And what happens is once this thing is laid, the religion all of a sudden has a foundational personality. Think about what I'm saying. It has a foundational personality. You now know where to look for Muslims, and they're not transient anymore. When I talked about the original Black Wall Street, those were ex-slaves that coalesced in the place. They came to a place, and in the midst of everything, they developed a business identity. And in that business identity is religion, is business, is education. How do they do that? We talking about it's divine and things like that. It happens, brothers and sisters, because people have a demand for justice and fairness and equality. And if nobody's going to give it to you, then you must establish it yourself. And what better way to establish it what better way to establish it other than the fact that you now have religious precedent to move you forward? I think the genius of slaves coming out of Reconstruction, which many people say it was an abject failure, all of that, it's the fact that slaves had begun thinking differently before they were emancipated. And once they were emancipated, all the ideas they had to keep to themselves, which in many regards, they kept them themselves, they would have been immensely beneficial to the people that owned them. They kept them to themselves, and their ideas were so beautiful and profound that it gave them presence. It gave them community. You know, much the same as we talk about the first and second resurrection. It's the same thing, that you have established communities that move from the NOI to the WD Muhammad community. And people say, how does it happen so seamless? Because the religion, brothers and sisters, advocates for a certain type of quality of community to do so. Think about that. We'll be back with Jews 4 because that will tie into what I'm talking about today. But listen, I'm getting ready to get out of here. You guys have been wonderful. I appreciate you. Most important, let's go ahead and run that. Can we run the ticker? I want to say thank you to all the people again. I want to give a shout out to my main man, Brother Kawaja, Sister Nancy Mustafa Hud Williams, Mary Moss, Satana Whitfield, that's you, champ. Maxine B. Cade, Clifford Moss Jr., Imam Johari, and we have Dr. Sylvia Traymore. We also have, oh, wait a minute, well, I'm trying to get it through here. Imam Johari, Abdul Malik, Sheikh Joe Bradford, Masjid Al-Tawheed, Imam Qasim Khan, and of course we have Sister Malaz Muhammad, who was a classmate of mine at Van, and my main man is Sam. So look, think about a little bit what I said today, because there is a tie-in, because the second part of this Jews is actually talking about the birth of Mary and the birth of Jesus. I didn't get to that, but I wanted to lay a strong foundation about this whole thing about community, because in this space, community begins to frame ideology, and it begins to ferret out prophethood. So you guys have been great. I am out of here. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow here on the ShOUT Show. Ramadan 30 for 30. Take care.